I'll just start things right here because this is a really easy place where we can all kind of gather around and hear what I'm talking about and see the same things. Because once we get out there, it's a bit more narrow and maybe hard to have all 12, 14 of us in the same place.
Father, these banana leaves, when do they go dead? What month do they go dead?
It's a great question. It's not about what month. So the ability for a banana to hold on to a number of leaves is dependent on how healthy the banana is. Right. And so a healthy banana can hold on to like 12 leaves at a time, right? If it's well fed, well irrigated, nice and sheltered. An unhealthy banana will only hold on to like a couple. And so these ones are pretty healthy. You'll see some that are way less healthy out in the systems or way more. But there's not a month where they start to die off.
So we have Matariki in June.
Yes.
Come here to get our banana
Absolutely.
leaves in June?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So one of the key differentiators between a food forest and syntropic agroforestry, and I'll just take this example here to explain, is essentially the use of support species. So non-edible trees and shrubs that you are just aggressively pruning to cycle organic material, to create biomass and put it on the soil and feed the soil biology, because that's where all the nutrients come from, right? Having poor soil is fixed by growing a forest and having organic material that you're constantly putting on the ground. And so all of this material here, all this mulch and all these leaves, that's all just generated from the trees and the system. I'm not bringing a bunch of wood chips. I'm not going and pruning other trees and bringing them here. You're growing the trees where they're going to be. And the cool thing is that has this like really symbiotic relationship with the whole thing. It's more systemic rather than just being dependent on importing compost, importing fertilizer, importing amendments. So that's like, in a nutshell, the difference between syntropic agroforestry and just kind of regular food forest. And so you'll see a lot of these like support species. Some of you guys might be familiar with, this is tree lucerne. These are eucalyptus. And you can see, you get up there, you take the ladder, you prune them up maybe 5-6 meters and just cycle that organic material. Most people would think, oh, you could never plant a eucalyptus next to a fruit tree, but even planted less than like a foot apart, and the citrus is doing beautifully. This whole area is less than, does anybody want to take a guess really quickly at how old this, it was all grass before I started planting this, but how old is this area? What are we thinking?
3 years.
Bingo, 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think these two.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is an example of how quickly these systems can develop, and there's lots of slower growing species in the understory. It's been really productive already. There's plantains, there's guavas, a bunch of berries, a bunch of gingers, and so this is like a small micro example of what's out there. Just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of, while we're all here and able to hear and see kind of some of the species and the dynamics that are happening before we get out at the larger scale stuff.
So is this potentially what it could look like out at Kaharoa?
Yes, except one of the differences is that because Kaharoa gets way colder, the bananas are going to be way more experimental there. And so we maybe would use other bananas that are more cold tolerant and initially more as just like a service plant, seeing if we can create a microclimate that would facilitate growing either plantains or edible bananas. Yeah. So you guys can see actually how like back there, there's bananas and there's no frost that happens back there. Actually, I think it'd be a cool opportunity before we go down into the systems. Let's just take a quick like 30-second detour. We'll go this way between these cars because there's a stream right down here and it gives a pretty good idea of the kind of microclimate that you can create here. What do I mean when I say microclimate? What comes to mind for you guys?
Different temperatures.
Different temperatures, yeah. I'll try and be loud so everybody can hear, but essentially this is, not this tree, but just this is an avocado.
Avocado?
Yeah, from seed. I don't know if it'll keep living for long, but this is kind of the condition that I'm aiming to create, right? Being down here shows me that in this landscape, which is a floodplain, we're about a kilometer from the Rangataiki River, one of the biggest rivers in the region. This whole area used to be a floodplain, and so these are the conditions that would have existed before these wetlands were drained and the landscape was transformed. And so part of recreating a resilient ecosystem is reforesting the landscape, right? Fixing the broken hydrological cycles, creating microclimates, because back here we don't get any frost. Right? And so these bananas are intact all year round. The temperatures are way more stable. So on a hot summer day, how great do you think it feels down here?
Beautiful.
Incredible, right? In winter, it's warmer down here. it doesn't get so cold, right? And so you're moderating the conditions, you're moderating the temperatures, the dryness, the humidity by creating a forest. And so this is, I like spending time down here before we go up there because it gives an image of like, what are the kind of conditions we're trying to create here, right? You see there's walnuts, there's some cherries, there's avocados, there's taro. There's so many different niches that you can fill with edible or non-edible plants. There's elderberries, there's figs, just in this kind of little area right here. And so it shows that big tree that a lot of us parked under is a chestnut. And so you can already see the beginnings of what a productive food forest can become. The reason for syntropic agroforestry is to accelerate that. If we just planted a bunch of fruit trees, they would struggle with the grass, they wouldn't maybe have optimal conditions, and so we're speeding up the development of an ecosystem by using those fast-growing pioneer species to get to this. So this is kind of like endpoint goals here. We'll go back up the way we came and start seeing what we're doing on the ground.
And what sort of time frame was it for you to get to where you are with this part?
Yeah, so we've been here for, I've been in New Zealand for 6 years, here on this property for 5 years, and starting to really implement agroforestry for 4 years. And so the oldest agroforestry systems I have are 4 years old just, but I've every year since then have implemented new systems. So I don't know how old a lot of these trees are, but we can, yeah, they were existing when we came here. Yeah. But you'll see how fast the transformation can take place from just bare grass into a forest. Yeah.
Oh, on some of the trees, what height would they have been when you arrived to what height they are now? What would that increase be?
These ones?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to kind of tell, but the trees that I've planted have grown from ground height up, you know, almost 10 meters in some cases. So we'll go take a look, eh? Yeah, we'll go this way. Okay. Yeah, so these are the Highland papaya.
Oh, they're tiny, nice.
Yeah, so they're not a tropical papaya, they're a Highland papaya, but you can actually eat the inside of that. You want to see it?
Do you want to taste it, Daniel?
Yeah.
Do you want to eat it? Is it guava?
It's a Highland papaya.
Oh, papaya.
Yeah, just off these trees here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it nice?
Yeah.
I know someone else.
Yeah. Do you know these ones? These are the Vasconcelea, the Highland papaya. So these are the, not a tropical papaya, they're the Highland papaya from kind of the mountains of Chile. They tolerate colder temperatures. They're the Vasconcelea family. But if you smell them, they smell absolutely incredible, really tropical, floral, delicious. Yeah. So those are a staple.
Would this grow part off?
You create a nice microclimate and it's likely that they would, because you can grow the mountain papaya out there. Yeah, so it's very likely that we would have these in the system.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Passion fruit flavor to it.
Yeah.
Smells
Yeah.
like the native passion fruits in Tahiti. The little ones.
Ooh,
Yes, similar.
It's got some, yeah, beautiful.
nice. Doesn't hold back, eh? And so just while we're still here, you can see there's a bunch of tamarillos in here. There's,
Amarillo?
yeah, there's a bunch of these are tamarillos through here.
What's this one?
This is,
this is
no, this is the Highland papaya that we're eating right now.
Papaya that was
Yep.
you just showing me that.
Yep.
Ah,
Yep.
and this one too.
Yep, this one too. There's some citrus right here. Yeah.
Ah,
So just an example of what can be done in a small kind of space. Yeah. No, and again, like all this organic material, all these pieces of sticks and whatnot, like this is all just turning into soil, right? This is just stuff that's been pruned off these trees and it's being turned into soil. Yeah, yeah. We get a bit cold for pineapple, so it's, you know, it's kind of marginal here. But yeah, we'll get going. We'll go see what's happening inside. So these are just some more small examples that are easy to see the process of. Everything is planted in a line now. Over there, it was kind of a little bit more all over the place. You can see we have some bananas right here on the back, some really nice edible gingers, another support tree, which you can see. I prune these really aggressively. right? There's a lot of work to do, and so I don't spend time being super picky. I just chainsaw, handsaw, cut it, it'll find somewhere to grow. If it doesn't find somewhere to regrow from, that means that it's out. Like it's done its function, it's out of the system, it doesn't need to be doing its thing anymore. There's a white sapote, a nice big like cannonball size custardy fruit, super delicious. Another support tree, a citrus. And so the reason this works, I couldn't plant 6 citrus trees right here this close. But I can get away with planting all these so close because they're different life cycle and different strata. Right? They all occupy different strata or canopy layers, and they all occupy different life cycles. And so by the time that this is ready to be like really productive and like pumping up the fruit in like 20 years, the citrus will kind of be like on the way out. Right? Citrus get quite disease riddled by that point. They're kind of slowing down in production at year 20. And so in the meantime, this will just keep growing and getting ready to go into production. So whether it's this or a pecan or a nut tree or macadamia, right? You just think like long-term species combined with medium-term species, the short-term species, whether it's ginger, bananas. That's why this planting works. It's not so dense with the same species, it's diverse and dense. See another example over here. A little bit more obvious, a little bit more linear. Everything's planted right in line. So what do we have here? There's cardamom, there's peppers, there's strawberries, there's these papayas, there's these guavas, jaboticaba, loquats, there's these, what's that called? Pepino. All these different trees planted super dense in a line, and they're fed with these species. Mexican sunflower, the eucalyptus, the bananas. I'm feeding all that material. So you guys can come here and you can actually like dig around in this material. There's no snakes, no spiders, and you can see I haven't removed the grass from here. I've just grown things and put the organic material to feed these systems. And look how happy these plants are. Look how green they are, right? It's that natural fertility that we're building just by pruning species. They regrow, we prune them, we feed the soil. Right? And so how much weeding am I having to do in here?
Nothing.
I don't. Now, in the bigger systems, it's, it takes more, there's more gaps, there's more challenges, but in small systems like this where you can like nail it and do it really well, fantastic. Persimmon, here's a peach. There's another peach grown right here. This is 3 years old from seed. Do you guys see peaches on there?
Oh, yeah.
3 years from seed. Wow. And so I didn't go buy a $60 or a $70 grafted tree to do this. I put a peach seed in the ground, and now it's got peaches on it. And look at this, no rust. No rust on the peach leaves. When you buy a peach tree that's grafted from the nursery, how likely is it, A, to come with rust, but B, be susceptible to it in the garden? 100%, yeah, we just expect it. Whereas, even looking a little bit more closely, I don't really see any rust on here. Looks happy. 3-year-old system. Got a peach underneath the Japanese raisin tree, right? A lot of people say peach needs to be in full sun. It's thriving. It's loving life. Peach is actually like a medium to a high strata species. The emergent, the one that's way up at the top, Japanese raisin tree. Makes a really nice kind of like pear and raisin flavored fruit. Also a great timber. So we keep it nice and straight. In 20 years, take it down. Something else will replace it. Probably this sapote down here with nice big cannonball fruit. Questions, or do we keep going?
Are these companion plantings, or how does that work in the system?
Yeah, I stay away from the verbiage of companion planting because it makes this assumption that like the peach needs to be with this other specific fruit tree. And that's not the case. It's more about the process. The process of having fast-growing species, ones that you prune, ones that sit in their different canopies and life cycles. So companion planting is more like what you see in traditional permaculture of, plant the lemon balm with the fruit tree because the lemon balm has this specific thing. Whereas in agroforestry, we're just looking for the function of the species and how they relate to each other.
It's more of a principle
than a recipe. Yeah, yeah. Other questions before we keep moving? No, keep moving. All right.
What is this grass called again?
That's sugarcane. So that right there is a seed-grown avocado.
That's not sugarcane, is it?
That's bonnegrass. That's bonnegrass. So that's a seed-grown avocado that this is its third year of fruiting. And it's about 7 to 8 years old. You can see no graft on it. Grown from seed, super nice and straight. I cut it at that point so it would fork and I can kind of get up in there. You can see I've pruned myself a little nest so I can be up there, I can harvest, I can prune and maintain it at that height, because what happens if it just goes straight up, I can't really harvest the fruit very easily. And so I'm letting it sit in that particular strata. I'm maintaining it there. It's gonna be really productive as time goes on. It'll have enough space for the understory to fill out with bananas and other things, but grown from seed. Again, just more evidence that you don't need to go buy all these super nice fancy grafted trees. You can put tons of seeds in the ground and select the winners. That's one of the principles of agroforestry. So what's behind me here is, this is a small, maybe like 15 by 15 meter block of a temperate food forest. So temperate in the sense that it's modeling a climate that gets cold, and they're all really deciduous species, ones that can tolerate temperatures like at Kaharoa. So there's no subtropical species in here. To create a demonstration of what would a temperate food forest look like. Lots of berries, lots of deciduous fruit trees, lots of deciduous support trees, herbs. And so you can see right here, there's lines that are spaced every 3-ish meters with fruit trees, berries, support trees, things like willow, poplar, and long-term species here are pecans. And so I've taken pecans and I've planted the seeds in the lines, and let's see if I can find one. Yeah, right here. There's a pecan right here. It's about knee height. And so this system is about 2 years. It was planted in parts, but 2 to 3 years old. The pecan, the climax species, the one that'll be here long term, they're coming up in the tree lines, and eventually there's going to be pecans below, nice fruit trees, berries, herbs in the understory.
So that's you've strategically planted the older trees after to let these ones gain their strata first, or?
No, ideally it's all planted at once. Some of these trees were already here. So these plum trees, these like larger ones that you're seeing like this, those were trees that the previous owner had planted, left abandoned. So I came and said, all right, we can make some lines here, we can add some berries in between, mix it up like that. Yeah. And so there's a huge diversity of blueberries, a bunch of diverse raspberries, different kinds of strawberries, herbs, mints. There's the very specific fruit tree called the American pawpaw in here, which is like a bean-shaped fruit like that. It's green on the outside, bright yellow on the inside. It kind of tastes like a mango, pineapple, and a banana. I know. It's from the northeast of America, kind of towards Canada, where it gets really cold. So it's basically the temperate mango, the cold climate mango. So that's the key target crop for this area in here. Essentially, the understory will just be a thicket of these American pawpaw, overstory of plums, pecans, and whatever herbs and berries in the understory.
Now that we've got a sense of what's in front of us, give us a sense of what Kaharoa might look like.
We'll keep going to the bigger scale stuff. Yeah, this way. But this is a pretty good sense of what it will look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really diverse. You can see there's trees in here, there's herbs, there's trees, there's a peach that's growing from seed. Right, so this is a sense of what it can look like, is lines with things in between. Apricot, raspberries, sage, lavender, more peaches, support trees.
In the application, we talk about the community being able to come and harvest.
Yes.
At what point with the Kaharoa project will that be?
That can be from as soon as we want to invite the community in to harvest the first succession of vegetables and annuals that are planted.
Give us a sense of what that might be.
Well, it depends on when things get planted and then what vegetables are going to be appropriate to plant at that time. And so ideally starting something, for example, in spring, you'll have like spring vegetables ready to harvest now. Cat's obviously planting. Yeah.
So pretty much the standard stuff that's around anyway.
Yep.
Yeah,
Run
yeah.
those as our alley crops, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And the fruits will come year 3, 4.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and you'll get berry fruit. You'll get berries in the first year. And they only get more and more. Oh, cool. You go fishing? Yeah, and there'll be perennial things. We have a lot of garlic happening, and so whatever things there's interest in, you can just keep planting more of that. Other questions?
How does this environment handle a native environment?
How do you mean?
So will they work in conjunction with each other?
Yeah,
Or can you keep them separate?
you can integrate them. Yeah, absolutely. Once we get to the older area, we'll see some natives starting to be incorporated into the system.
So
Yeah.
in the sense of, say, your property where you are surrounded by a conservation area, you could work on the edge of your bush and incorporate into that, and then you've got your kind of strata and that whatnot kind of life cycle of the bush working up to that same climax that you've got going on. You
Yeah.
just can't have like seeds all from it and integrate into the bush.
It's got to be like a separation.
So there might just be selective things that you don't incorporate in there then.
Yeah, are you thinking of some of the weedier species that we've got here?
Yeah.
The cool thing is that, for example, like acacia, you'll see quite a few. Here's one. This acacia will never thrive in the bush because it needs sunlight. And so only if the bush gets ripped down in a windstorm, these seeds are in the seed bank, then they'll pop up.
Right.
But that's a good thing, because then they'll help restabilize soil, recreate the conditions that then other natives can then come through. Right?
And the only other problem with that is most people don't understand that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the lines that we would look at.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Byron, you've been doing a little bit of work on potential native emergence options for those, or are you still?
Oh, I'm still fully like it's exotic. Yeah. Yeah. But you'll see them. There's natives in there, but the reason isn't because I'm like, who needs New Zealand natives? It's more that they just don't compete. Like there's not a New Zealand native that's going to outcompete what a eucalypt and this acacia can do in terms of function. Like including them in there for the diversity and for the sake of like, they're from here, let's rebuild that side of the ecosystem. But it's for a separate reason than the function that we're looking to gain from these.
From the speed and the biomass that they.
And the ability to be pruned. Yeah. Because I can take the head off, we could cut this down right here and it'll go boom. Whereas natives have a harder time to get that big that quickly and have that resilience to pruning. Keep going. So this is the original area that I first planted as I was learning about this stuff. So this was all grass 4 years ago, and it started off just being this one line right here of trees in an ocean of grass. And it felt kind of funny because I planted this line and I would bring people here and say, guys, look at the food forest. It's this like line, and it was full of vegetables, like squash, corn, tomatoes, beans, with a few trees poking out of the vegetables. And people would say like, you're saying food forest, but I'm seeing like a line surrounded by grass, a line of mostly vegetables and some trees and some things poking up. But once we took the time to kind of dive in to see, actually there's a mulberry right there, and there's a banana, the tamarillo right there, and the avocado seedling. It started to work in their mind of understanding like, these vegetables are gonna get harvested, they're gonna be removed, and then the raspberries are gonna take their place. And then the sugarcane is going to take the place. And then the tamarillo and the mulberry are going to take their place. And then the eucalypt is going to be way high up there. And then the papayas and the bananas. And so that's exactly how it's played out. And then obviously the addition of more and more lines makes it feel more full. But this is where everything started 4 years ago. Surrounded by an ocean of grass and nothing but ecological process. So I haven't been like, bringing in mountains of wood chips in here. This is all just produced right here in situ. Right, aside from I did prune that one tree over there to bring some material in here, and you can see on this pathway, it's actually these wooden logs that I've placed on this pathway to reduce compaction. All right, so that's decomposing. I bring a lot of tour groups through here, and so they always kind of walk on this same path, and so I'm thinking, all right, if I have tons of people walking the exact same place all the time, it's going to compact that. Especially because we've got our macadamia right here. It will eventually send its roots right here. And so I'd rather have nice soil conditions, decomposing logs for those roots when they're here, spreading the compaction of everybody walking, basically modeling what happens when a tree falls in the forest.
So is that something that you would do initially and then not do it again, or is that something that you would do annually or as part of your process with your pruning going?
You could do it at year 3, you could do it at year 4, right? Some of these eucalypts, I've already taken some out entirely and I've just laid them along here, but I could just as easily have, it's a little bit more intensive with the labor, but I could have just cut them up and done the exact same thing over here. So it's helpful if you have trees to begin with, like existing trees in the area, because then you can use all that material and do whatever you need. But if you have nothing, you just start with what you have. And so I'll do a quick demo. I'll walk through about these first 4 meters of tree line to show you guys the density and the species diversity of where things are at now. So I'll just go about 4 meters in and I'll point to what we've got. We've got a eucalyptus, a cherimoya seedling, sugarcane, tamarillo, there's Mexican sunflower. What is this called? Szechuan pepper. There's raspberries, macadamia, ice cream bean, dwarf cardamom, cherimoya, a bay tree, papaya, more raspberries, sugarcane, avocado from seed, banana, fig, macadamia. Right, so that's just in the first 4 meters, which is kind of crazy because most people would think, you got 4 meters of space, you can plant 1 tree. Whereas I've already maximized this space, I've already harvested tons of things out of here, the annual vegetables, harvested tons of berries out of here, elephant garlic already, papayas, tamarillos, figs, mulberries, dwarf cardamom, and it keeps on getting better and better in succession, right? Every year these trees get bigger, right? They get closer to productivity if it's the macadamia, for example, or the cherimoya. At the very end of that 4 meters, I've started experimenting with field grafting. And so I'll put a seed in the ground, I'll wait 2 years, and then I'll cut it and I'll graft it in situ. So I'll graft it when it's already growing in the ground. Much better than having to go buy a tree and transplant, buy a grafted tree for $70 and transplant. I'd rather just take a handful of seeds, plant them throughout, come back in 2 years, and then graft them like that. So that's just a 4 meter example of kind of what's happening all the way through here. Now this middle area is full of gingers, there's pineapples, there's all kinds of stuff. So don't walk in this middle bed, stick to like this pathway or that one. And we'll just walk down the line. We can go slowly so you can take your time. Like, don't be afraid to poke around and like have a look, move some stuff. You're not gonna hurt anything. Don't like rip a bunch of stuff out unless you're doing helpful things like weeding, but take a look, feel free to like touch the plants, see how healthy they are. If you find like unhealthy plants, don't tell anyone. But go ahead, come take a walk. If you're walking in the pathways here, that's great. Just don't walk in the middle of these beds. People love this idea, especially in nurseries, that citrus need full sun to thrive, right? Whereas in agroforestry, when you study basically the agroforestry, you're coming from the perspective of what is the place of origin of these plants, right? The place of origin for an avocado is in the rainforest. The place of origin for a citrus is in some parts of Asia in a forest, not in a field on its own in full sun. And so we're recreating the forest conditions. Look how healthy this citrus is. Deep green leaves, way more growth than the citrus that are planted in full sun on their own by themselves. Now here's the key distinction, right? It's in a medium strata, right? Medium strata is here. At the moment, the bananas and these papayas are in the high strata, and then the eucalyptus are in the emergent strata. So the citrus is very much in the medium right now. Very happy. However, the thing that makes this possible is the disturbance interval, right? You can look around, you can see I'm pruning in here. You can feel on the ground, I'm pruning material, right? There's stuff on the ground, which means that I'm coming in like a windstorm with the machete, with the chainsaw, with the hand saws, with the snippers. And I'm coming in like a windstorm and I'm introducing a huge amount of sunlight every few months. Organic material. What happens when I prune everything at once is there's this growth pulse, what it's called in agroforestry. The growth pulse of the system is basically the resprouting. Everything gets this flush of growth. That's the key dynamic here. If I just left this citrus and I didn't prune anything, I didn't touch anything else, it wouldn't get its needs met. It wouldn't get the right sunlight, it wouldn't get the right dynamics. But because I'm in here, we're managing the system. It's an actively managed system, you can see that. Things are healthy. As soon as I'm ready to not be managing in here, if I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to prune anymore, I'm gonna leave this place, that's fine. I'll just come and I'll just cut certain species down at the ground. And then it'll just more or less be fruit trees and some native species and none of these fast growing emergent ones. So citrus don't need full sun. This is Okinawa spinach. It's from Japan, it's an edible leafy green. You can put them every day in a salad. The great thing is you don't have to keep replanting this. That's why I don't do a lot of annual vegetable gardening, because you have to maintain it really well. If you walk away for 6 months and you come back, you don't have a veggie garden anymore. You have a pit of weeds and grass. And so I like systems that I can neglect and then come back to, and they're bigger, they're more productive, and I come back and prune them. All right, so all of these are perennials. No annuals in here anymore. Perennial greens. These make a really nice flower that you eat. It's like you dice it up and it's a really zest. So you don't even have to dig this ginger up. It's one that just stays in the ground, creates a little flower. You eat that, turns it into like a salsa. You can make a kimchi, just a topping on anything. It's fantastic. There's, who else is in here? The Vietnamese mint, which is this one here. That's like spiky one. It's kind of like a coriander replacement. For those of you who like coriander but don't like to keep having to replant it, it's a perennial, it'll just live forever, stays in the shade. It's that spicy flavor. Yeah, just rub it between your, yeah, it's intense. Not everyone likes it. And so there's loquats, avocados, guavas, cherimoya. Here's one of the, yeah, there's another cherimoya. There's some natives in here. Fast growing, slow growing species, all kinds. In that row behind me, you can see instead of the really diverse alley crop like we have here, there is yacon, which is the Peruvian ground apple. It's like a potato that lives underground, but you eat it, it's like an apple. It's like crunchy, crisp, watery, really delicious. Yacon. It's a perennial.
When are they ready to?
Winter. Once they frost down, and then you harvest them, and they got these really sweet big tubers. Again, it's forest food. That's the premise here, is that we're trying to rebuild our ecosystems into forests that are just feeding us the way that our ancestors would have lived, right? Alongside the forest, within the forest, not just cutting forest down and just growing one crop of annuals year after year, year after year, after year after year. Right? What would happen is indigenous peoples would clear a forest, plant things, and then as they're harvesting, the native forest is regrowing. The forest of other fruits is regrowing behind them. Whereas now if we cut down, you know, wherever we plant things, all that regrows is just like weeds and things that we don't need, and there's not a seed bank of diverse edible fruits. So that's what we're trying to create here, is a legacy of productive ecosystems. These ones are about 30 meters long here. It's a nice length, it's not too long. In the next block, there's 60 meters long, too much. So that's why the Rosacado are gonna be 20 meters, because it's just, even if it's psychologically the same length, having like 3 20-meter rows versus one 60-meter line, psychologically, way nicer to work with like smaller rows. Yeah. Keep going.
Thank you.
This is the Paraná nut from Brazil. It's really spiky.
What is it?
The Paraná nut. It's a nut from the south of Brazil. Yeah.
Do they grow big?
Yeah, they grow like these really nice big, like huge bombs.
They're plants.
Yeah, it'll grow to a huge, like a dinosaur. Yeah.
So like this one, you would prune it right from the ground.
Yeah,
no?
yeah, I would. I just haven't gotten to it. And so just take the opportunity, take the moment to turn back around and appreciate there's a forest where there was previously just grass, and it's awesome.
It really is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun, hey. This is one of my most commonly used tools once the trees get beyond year 2. It's a pole pruner. It's fantastic. It's just telescopic, so you can make it up to 5 meters. I do a lot of the work with this. Makes it quite nice, safe, on the ground. That's from Brazil, Duas Caras, 2 faces.
What's the best brand to get to it?
Corneta.
Corneta.
I'll say it well. So basically I've taken that same principle, that same pattern, and just kept applying it through the rest of block 1, this area. incorporating with existing fruit trees. Same as out here.
Okay.
This area was planted last year around this time in between existing mandarin trees. So the mandarin trees were quite young. There was a lot more disease. Planted last year, you can see these purple heads that are kind of at eye level for some of us, not all of us. Elephant garlic, ready to be harvested very soon.
What do you do with elephant garlic?
I'll pull it up and I'll eat it.
Oh, just raw?
You can eat it raw because it's a lot more mild. You can cook with it. Yep, I'll grow more of it next year, so I'll save a lot of the seed.
They're a pretty plant just as they are too, eh?
They are. So as we come this way and come into the system, you can see same principle, just at a younger stage, right? Eucalyptus, nitrogen fixer, a bunch of little seeds that have been poked in the ground. Peach seeds, there's avocado seeds, there's bananas, there's taro, there's sugarcane, there's some citrus, there's mulberries in here, guavas, cherimoya, papaya. I think that covers most of what's in here at the moment. But you guys are gonna come back in another 2 years here and it'll feel like it feels in there. And that's gonna feel even more like an advanced forest.
How old is this again? Sorry.
This is just about 13 months old. Yeah. And the cool thing is we're using a lot of these garbage species. All right, these are garbage species that you see on the side of the road. All right, you see these in the ditches because they like poor soil conditions. And what they're doing there is they're fixing the soil. They're improving the conditions. They're creating a nice sheltered space for the more sensitive things in the understory to thrive, right? They're being of service to us. So we're actively using these garbage species to improve the conditions. And then, like you see over there, they get cycled out progressively. Once this has fulfilled its function, I'm going to cut it down, turn it into soil. The roots underground are going to slowly decompose. Those turn into root tunnels in the soil, especially if you're on heavier clay soil. Those root tunnels are then where the slower growing species say, oh, I can put my roots through here. All right, so we're just going through that process of ecological succession. This one, yeah. And this one too. Beautiful eucalypts though. So we'll walk to the end of this one and then we'll flip around. These are the ones that are 60 meters long, so we'll go a little bit faster. You can just take a look and see. But again, there's peaches, there's these south of Brazil nut trees down here. These will become like the climax species in 20 years. Super productive, really nice nuts, great timber in 60 years. Loquats, bananas, sugarcane, citrus, avocados, guavas, papayas, mulberries, sugarcane, cherimoya, taro. Sorry? Yeah, in that system right there, yes.
Yumiko was asking about them.
Yeah, yeah. I would probably, in future, rather than incorporating them into the tree line, put them. Yeah, yeah.
Byron, is this neighbor's land or yours?
This is our land. Yeah. The boundary is the creek and the road. Yeah. Little slice of paradise.
And you start all the supports and his.
I buy a lot of the supports. Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of them. Like these acacias, I'm just popping seeds in the ground. But tree lucerne and I'm buying. And so the cool thing is we started with a lot of disease on our citrus here, like multiple trees every single year we'd have to cut out to disease. And as I've incorporated more and more agroforestry, the trees get healthier and there's less disease. And we have to cut fewer trees out, which makes a real difference in terms of like how much fruit we're able to sell. We sell a lot of fruit all around. We sell to Brownell, we sell to organic shops up in Auckland, Christchurch, Dunedin, here in Whakatane. We are certified organic, and so we ship specifically to these organic shops. And it's fantastic quality produce, a lot of it, and so it helps to not have citrus and trees that we're constantly having to cull and remove because of disease.
So your fertilizer is what's happening around you.
Exactly. And it's almost less about like the fertilizer as much as it is like it's a systemic improvement. Like the whole system is healthier rather than like the detail of fertility. Yeah, just watch out. There's this. The story here is this whole property used to be kiwi fruit orchard. So about 30 years ago, this whole place was all kiwi fruit, and the previous owner to us, he was quite forward thinking at the time, like 20-ish years ago, and he started ripping out all the kiwi fruit and planting a diversity of fruit trees. He left the suspension, like the irrigation systems up to kind of water as he implemented new areas. Obviously those oranges over there, on the older side of things, maybe 20, 25 years old, he started there, but then he would, you know, wait 5 years, plant this block, wait 5 years, plant the next area. But he left a lot of old, wasted infrastructure around. There used to be kiwi fruit wires running through this whole place. So me being this tall, I would have to constantly like pull the ducking move to get anywhere. So all of that's been, you know, a lot of work, but removed.
What's that bulb behind you?
Elephant garlic. Yeah, that's the purple heads that we see.
And how do you eat that?
You can eat it raw. It's not as intense of a flavor. Dice it up. You can cook with it. I'm gonna grow more of it because I like it.
It's actually not garlic.
It's a leek. Yeah. So it doesn't get rust. So it doesn't get rust. Yeah.
It's just called elephant garlic, but it's actually a leek.
Clever. So this is a pecan. So you guys can see like the forest is developing, right? This is going to be the climax tree in 20 years, producing tons of pecans above an understory of productive fruit trees. But you guys can see what I mean. 60 meters is too long, hey? Yeah, it's easier when they're shorter lines psychologically. Ooh, why don't we do this? Let's find a spot and step over. So that's one of the number one rules in agroforestry is never step in someone's tree line because you compact the soil, which you can't undo, and you are very likely to squish things. And so we'll take a nice big wide step over this line or somewhere through here and come onto this side and find some plums. Yeah. Go ahead and pick some that are ready. Quick, you guys, go find some plums before Teranga Kaiki takes them all.
April 8th.
It's a nice treat to get to at the end of a long walk. Get to some plums. There you go.
Yum.
Oh, you can probably reach the good plums at the top.
Yeah. Louisa is not in the season, is it?
No, we have a bunch of Louisas down there, and there's some right here. Yeah, we got like 30 trees. Hey, they're the best.
They don't have very good shelf life though, is it? So they're not very good for stores.
They also usually leave a little piece of stone inside them. If you're not careful, I don't know if it's the case with your tree.
I have noticed that, but it doesn't put me off from eating them. Hey. Here's a great example of seeds being planted in the line though. This is a really nice peach variety from down the coast, and it's just as simple as putting peach seeds in the line.
Gosh, you really need a good eye to see.
Well, it's like, you know, you live with the system and you learn the species.
You know where you put what.
Yeah. You start to be able to recognize each tree.
Yeah.
Like mulberry, avocado, taro, Japanese raisin tree, peach, willow, cherimoya, poplar, acacia. Like, you just live with the trees, and so you get used to identifying them.
Yeah.
And I'll come through in maybe another 2 weeks and do a bit of a reset, open some sunlight, drop some more organic material.
So for each tree line, you do that every 3 months or something?
It's super seasonal, so like the heaviest reset is at the beginning of spring, and approaching winter I'll do lighter and lighter pruning. But it's nice to stop at this tree for the plums. It's a long journey.
It's not a long journey.
It's a very long journey. No? Are you gonna go all the way down there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you when you get back. So what questions do we have? Or are we just dumbfounded and inspired to have one of these at Kaharoa? Yeah. not doing any pest control. If I see a possum and I have the bow around, you know, take care of it. But there's no like sprays, there's no pellets, there's no nothing.
No, nothing.
Yeah. I have noticed that there are certain crops that I just can't grow very well here because the rats will get to them. For example, they love sweet corn. Anytime I try and grow sweet corn here, like just the day before I'm gonna go harvest it, they get it. And so I take the feedback. Cool.
You take the species out. How is that? How do you control the rats when they're eating that?
Well, they'll eat the sweet corn, and I say, okay, cool, I'll try again next year, or not.
What about insects? And how do you treat those?
Great question. Plants that are healthy don't allow insect pressure.
Really?
Yeah. If a plant is healthy, it's not going to allow insect pressure. And so, what you're seeing when a tree is unhealthy, when it's like planted on its own, usually dependent on fertilizers, it's stressed, it's in full sun, it doesn't get the needs met, it's stressed, and so insects are like, oh, I can eat this, I can digest these. Because basically the difference is that a plant that's having a lot of function, it's really healthy, it's creating complete proteins in the leaf. If it's cool, this is meant to be here. Yeah. 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 So complete proteins versus free amino acids, healthy trees, unhealthy trees. And so that's kind of the insect pressure solution, having a healthy system.
What time are you coming over tomorrow?